Welcome. My name is Pastor Guy Roberts. I'm so glad you're here again this week for us to continue to learn and study and grow and discuss what God's story means for our lives. Here we are in chapter 2. As we gather together, chapter 2, God builds a nation. And it's just some incredible accounts of what God has been doing through his people, the calling of Abraham as well as Jacob wrestling with someone who eventually realized is God. These are just incredible stories, and I hope you enjoyed them, reading them in your home. As I went through these questions, a lot of these questions are just really good discussion questions for you. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time in them. For you, feel free always, if I'm misreading that, to call or contact a pastor. We'll help you work through any of these discussion questions or answer any questions that you have. But the only question in this chapter 2 of God Builds a Nation that I wanted to use as an opportunity to again teach and review a little bit from last week is question number 4, where the question says, why did God ask Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac? You know, this is one of those questions that just haunts people. When you read this story, and especially if you have children or nieces or nephews, you just do not understand this. Why would God do this? Why would God allow him? And of course we know that at the end of the story, after we read it, he didn't actually make him go through with it, but right up until the moment of the knife lifted in the air, he is in that place of just about ready to sacrifice his son. And the question they ask here is, why did God ask him to do this? Last week we talked about it, and if you didn't listen to last week, I want to remind you this week. These questions of where we ask, why did God do something? You know, the truth is, unless he tells us why he did it, we don't know. And that's hard. That's difficult for us to struggle with. As I talked to somebody and we discussed this, they told me that what's even more fascinating is that Abraham actually did it. He actually listened and trusted and was going to do what God asked him. There's no way that made sense to him. There's no way any father would lift a knife to plunge it into their sons as a sacrifice. But yet God said, and he followed, and he trusted. And God, who is merciful and gracious, spared Isaac from the sacrifice and provided rams for his blood to be spilled. And so we see this and we know this. Maybe most profound of all, and what I encourage you to talk about in this story, is that God did not choose to spare his own son. And for that, we see and trust and know that even though we don't always understand his will or why he does things, we do know he's for us. For the blood of his son has covered us over. I encourage you as parents, as those called to disciple others, when these questions, why did God allow bad things to happen? I encourage you to also take the opportunity to continue to teach, especially our children, that God is God and we are not. That's a very, very important part of our life as Christians and our life together as we live and know and learn who we are and what God has for us in his story. Have a blessed week.